Well, hey, Gundam Maniacs, welcome to another episode of Gundam Explained. In this episode, we're going to talk about X-Men 97. Now, I know that's not really related to Gundam, but I'm going to make it related to Gundam. So here we go. All right, so X-Men 97 just had its season on Disney Plus ended. It was awesome. What is it? It's based off of, the X-Men comics that have been around for a long time, but mainly specifically the 90s animated TV show, which is how I learned about X-Men. So it was neat coming back to this actually after so long, because I remember that cartoon being awesome. That's what got me to X-Men. I'd buy the action figures. And I was surprised how this modern show was really doing a good job of actually being modern in many ways while still kind of retaining its essence. Because while the themes are the same, they're a lot more in your face in this X-Men 97, and because it can be a little more mature, it then allows more jumping off points into like darker themes. So the season ended, and I loved it. It was so good, and I'm thinking there's so many things about it actually that remind me of the things I like about Gundam. One of the main ones I think off the top of my head have to do with Sentinels. Yes, giant robots that are running around the city destroying things that can fly and all that. That's just like awesome fodder as bad guys. I think in any storytelling, just having giant evil robots are pretty awesome. And I think the other obvious theme about X-Men and Gundam, I guess when it comes to like the center of conflict, is how humans view each other or differences with each other. So in X-Men, we have the mutants, which, seem to be like humans, but sometimes they look different or have weird powers. And so that's where that like segregation lies. In Gundam, we have kind of the people in space, or new types for some people on Earth, which I find very interesting. Also being kind of the point of the conflict. If we look at Zeon Zoom Daikun and what he was trying to do, he saw that there should be Spacenoid independence. And it's interesting to think of it from that aspect of we're in space, we kind of want to live on our own, and the idea of developing new abilities along the way, almost like mutants. But while that's happening, you're having like these armies, right? The Earth Federation and the Zeon just kind of fight each other and battle each other. But then higher up, you have people like in charge of the military that happen to be new types. Maybe they just, through growing up in society because of their abilities, they were able to get into these positions. But then above that, and I think it's very obvious in something like Unicorn, is there is this like group of people that are kind of pulling the strings on both sides. And I wonder how much that exists in X-Men. Because again, let's go to the similarities. We have humans, and then we have people with abilities, mutants. So a lot of times in the storytelling, the show especially, but in the comics and the movies, you have scenes where there's political sort of conversation occurring about what it means to be a mutant, how they should be involved in society. A lot of it is based on fear, so we have a lot of people against the mutants, and it has to do with fear. In Gundam, I don't know how much they really talked about it in that way. New types were almost mythological. In fact, a lot of people are sometimes surprised or endeared by a new type, whereas in X-Men, it seems like most people just don't really like mutants. But then the higher up you go in the rank of whatever, whether it's the military or some political narrative unfolding, you have people that don't like new types because they think it means the end of the human race. But then you have people that want to experiment on new types, maybe clone them, try to create a cyber new type to use at their will, which is similar to X-Men. So you have cloning going on, people wanting to get other people's powers. Kind of the same thing there, because that phenomenon is being used in multiple ways in society and for weapons. And so I think X-Men does a better job, I think on purpose though, of kind of, especially when you're of the age of understanding what kind of the underlying social issues are being told in the storytelling as opposed to Gundam, even though it's kind of the same thing. But the other aspect I like about both of these is when it comes to like the ultimate match of like the two of the most powerful. We have Xavier and Magneto, who are both mutants, right? And we get to a point like in these stories where it's almost them against each other, and there's all this psychic power occurring and going on. It's almost the same with Gundam, because we have Char and Amuro, who are both new types, but they have different ideologies. And like we see in a lot of the X-Men comics, especially that I've noticed lately in the Jim Lee era, and maybe even before, I haven't read that many, but also in the new animated series, is these characters will do these monologues that go on for quite a while with their ideals, with their idea of like the perfect future and what their beliefs are, and these characters really dive into that. And it's similar across both. What's very interesting too about Char and Amuro, as because they have their new type powers, they're also using this psychic ability as part of the conflict. It gets them to be like they are the last bosses of the Zeon versus Federation conflict. And then the same with X-Men. You have Professor X, Magneto, which are like the last bosses that have to battle each other about like, what do we do with humanity and mutants? Do we live together or do we wipe out humanity? And it's interesting because Char just wants to wipe out humanity, so he decides to send an asteroid down there. But Char and Amuro use their psychic powers. They come together and they're able to stop it from happening. Sort of the same thing in X-Men 97. It was pretty cool to see Magneto, you know, he's kind of at his last straw of what's been going on. It's like he's trying to work with humanity, but he realizes, just like Char, that there's nothing he can do. It's like the time in X-Men 97 when Magneto was with the X-Men team reminds me of Quattrobagina with the AU. It's like, this is Char trying to do what's right, but then you get to Char's counterattack and Char just realizes it can't happen. Same with Magneto, he decides, okay, I'm gonna just send this asteroid down to Earth. And both using the power of mutants' abilities or new types, telekinesis, they're able to divert it from happening. And if you're gonna dive in deeper on the psychic abilities the mutants have, plus the new type ability, there's always that little thing where characters can almost talk to each other in both stories, in both worlds, where I feel like that's a neat direction to go when it comes to what's next for humans, and that's having psychic abilities, being able to talk to each other. But it's interesting how that also happens in both X-Men and Gundam. In Gundam, it goes a little further sometimes, and it seems to potentially integrate with maybe spirituality, where it's like a ghost of someone is able to speak with you even after death. Now, that doesn't happen in X-Men, but what could be happening maybe in Gundam is it's more of, and this is kind of described sometimes, especially like a narrative when they're describing how Rita's, you know, soul is able to stay, you know, physical or have a physical manifestation by being part of the Phoenix. The Phoenix. Just like Jean Grey, there we go, that's another one. But it could just be that when a powerful new type dies, its sort of essence, maybe obeying the laws of physics, that isn't completely destroyed, and it integrates into maybe some sort of frequency that brainwaves are able to also travel, and that's why you have some humans able to communicate with other new types or with people that you think are dead, but it's more of like an AI persona of them exists. And I would even say, to me, the mobile suits are more equal to the mutant powers of X-Men. We have characters in Mobile Suit Gundam that have unique mobile suits. We have some characters that maybe they're not too unique, but it's more based on what they're capable of. Like, it's not like Amuro's Gundam is that unique. He's a badass pilot in the Gundam. But just like Cyclops, I mean, he can shoot lasers out of his eyes. That's it. Yet he is badass at doing it. And so, yeah, I really like X-Men 97 because what it does, that Gundam does, is it speaks on real-world problems that we actually don't have any answers for. In fact, they're conflicts that are occurring today. And we actually don't 100% know why it's happening. We're just assuming. That's why in X-Men, when you go up the chain of who's really in control of everything, we don't really see that. In fact, we just see powerful mutants or humans with different agendas that are more personal to them. Same thing with Gundam. We have this Earth Federation versus Zeon, but it looks like it's just people trying to vie for power. And once we get to Unicorn, we find out about groups that kind of work together to make sure conflict still plays out so they can get money, power, etc. So among new types, among mutants, there are still people trying to take advantage of the situation. It's actually made me appreciate the original X-Men cartoon a lot more, knowing how deep it was trying to be by being a kids show, kid-targeted show, based on a comic book. And because I've gotten to Gundam later in life, right off the bat of watching Gundam, I'm seeing the sort of storytelling it's trying to do, how it's trying to mirror, you know, what's happening in real life, but within like this future sci-fi setting with these mobile suits that fight. So mobile suits mutants, very awesome. I said it before, I think on one of the Gundam Explained shows, but they need to have a mobile suit that has beam claws, right? Like Wolverine, but beam claws. What if Wolverine's skeleton was just a giant beam? You know, anyway, there's probably more that could be discussed when it comes to themes between X-Men and between Gundam, and this helps me realize what I like about stories and storytelling. And it's that interesting, integrated part of storytelling that then makes me like the action even more. It's just, I appreciate mobile suit battles in space because of what's happening. I appreciate these complex mutant powers and all the different conflicts occurring because of what's going on in society. So let me know below, what are some other themes or things from maybe X-Men and Gundam that are very similar? Let me know down below in the comments, because this is something I'd like to explore a little more. And also let me know what you thought about the X-Men 97 animated series, because I thought it was awesome. And it's up there with the type of animation I like. I think Gundam and X-Men, you see Gundam and X-Men are very similar. Anyway, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think below. And also, while you're below, check the links in the description. A shout out to the supporters. Check that out if that's something you're interested in. And also our Discord. We have a lot of fun there. But until next time, be cool.